Have you realized your car loans are costing you millions? In today's video, I really want to break down how to start thinking about car loans, how it might be costing you your financial freedom and your financial future, and how to put yourself on the other side of the loan and start giving loans instead of being the one that's taking the loans. Before we jump into that, I want to read something to you. So according to NASDAQ, over 100 million Americans have car debt, and the auto loan size is at least $22,612. These auto loans are absolutely killing you. I want you to start thinking about it. I was just working with one of our students, and his situation is very similar to a lot of people that I work with, and very similar to what my situation was about 12 years ago. So right now he's carrying two car loans. One has a balance of $29,000 on it, and that's for a Honda, and the other one has a balance of $32,000 on it. So here's my question. Right now he's paying over $700 a month for these cars. Think about it, $700 a month. So $1,400 every single month goes out for these cars. And my question was, are you paying $1,400 to yourself first? And if we're not paying $1,400 to ourselves, or whatever it is that we're paying for the car, for our future, here's my question. Why not? Because if I'm paying $1,400 a month, I want to tell you what that would be if you just had that in an investment account that gave you a modest 10% return over the next 20 to 30 years. So $1,400 a month over the next 30 years at 10% interest gives you $3.2 million. So my question to you is your auto loan costing you millions? Because in this situation, it is. My curiosity is, why would I ever pay Honda $700 or $1,400 a month before I pay myself that? And part of that is a value problem. What I've seen for myself and for many people that I work with is we just don't value. We don't value paying ourselves first. And on top of that, if I ask my student, why would you do that? It's really hard for him to explain to me why he actually has done that. Why would you pay somebody else $1,400 a month before you pay yourself? And you say, well, Jamil, because I have to have a car. Why do you need that car? Why do you need a car that has payments? Why do you need a car that has more payments than you're paying yourself? Why would I pay $700, $1,400 for a car for 4 years, 5 years, 6 years when I'm not paying that and I'm not investing that for myself? And when I keep pressing you and when I keep pressing them as to why, usually the answer is, well, I'm not sure. And the answer is, I'm not sure because we usually do what's acceptable and what most people do. Now, the problem is, it's not uncommon for a husband and a wife that has 2, 3, or 4 kids that have 2 car payments. And because that's kind of typical and it's kind of normal and it's kind of expected, that's why you do it. That's the real reason. In order to be great, you have to be great. In order to be free, then you have to do the things that's going to bring you freedom. And in order to have a lot and be able to give a lot in the future, then you have to do different things today. We cannot do what most people do. Here's what I want to encourage you. Be on the other side of the interest rate. So instead of paying, 4%, 5%, 6% on a car loan, I want you to start thinking about, how can I have other people pay me 4%, 5%, or 6%, or 10%, or 15% on our investments this year? We've gotten returns of over 30%, 35%, 60% in some cases, right? But even a 10% return would be amazing. So start thinking about, okay, first and foremost, I'm never ever going to pay somebody or another entity before I pay myself. I would never ever buy a $30,000 car until I first made a $30,000 investment. This is how I want you to think. Do you know that you can buy a house right now for $30,000 that pays you $1,500 a month in rent? And what you want to do is use that rent from that house that's likely going to keep going up in value to pay for the car. Never buy the car before you've bought the asset. You want to buy the asset, have the asset start paying you 10%, 15%, 30%, and then you want to use the money from the asset to now buy the car. Does this make sense? Please, pretty please, with the cherry on top, don't ever buy a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 car before you've made a $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 investment. There's something called an opportunity cost as well. If I have a car loan of $30,000, right? And I'm paying 4%, 5%, 6% on that car loan, I'm missing out on an opportunity cost as well. What does that mean? An opportunity cost is all of the opportunities that you are missing out on because you're paying $30,000 to them instead of investing that $30,000 to something that can give you a 10% return, 15% return, 30% return. Take the stock market this year. Right now we're in 2024, about a 25%, 30% return. So if I had $30,000 and I was going to have that tied up for the next 5 years, I might be missing out on a good $90,000. That's called an opportunity cost. So to have $30,000 going to something that depreciates in value, I'm not only losing the money because I'm putting it towards this depreciating vehicle, I'm also missing out on the opportunities that I could be having that's a lot more than 10%, and that is an opportunity cost. It's too expensive to go down that rabbit hole. Does that make sense? So here's what you want to do. You want to make sure that you're paying yourself a certain amount. Even if you paid yourself $1,000 a month in this scenario, instead of paying the $1,400 a month with this car, invest $1,000 a month over the next 20 years. Let's see what you get. $1,000 a month over the next 20 years at a 10% return, then you're going to have $766,000. Okay, that's a lot better than buying the new sexy car. Now let's extend that. Let's invest $1,000 every single month over the next 30 years. Now you have $2.2 million. This is just $1,000 a month. Now let's do that for the next 40 years. Now you have $6.4 million. Okay, so never pay $1,000 to something before you pay $1,000 to yourself. Never pay $500 to something before you pay $500 to yourself. I don't even care what you get. Do not get it until you've invested $500. Because the truth is, even if you just invested $500 every single month over the next 30 years, you would have $1.2 million. And that's just 500. So don't pay for the car. I wouldn't pay my utilities. I wouldn't pay rent. I wouldn't eat out. I wouldn't freaking go to the movies. I definitely wouldn't have 2 car payments. Whatever it is that you're willing to pay on that, be willing to pay it to yourself first and invest that. Because right now, those bills, those loans, are potentially costing you millions of dollars. The most important thing to take from this video is never, ever buy the car before you've invested into the market or into real estate. Let your stock portfolios, your real estate portfolios, let those assets now pay for the depreciating car. Does that make sense? But never be willing to pay $500, $1,000, $1,500 for X until you're willing to pay yourself first for that same thing. I hope today's video brought you value. If so, go on and subscribe, like the channel, follow me on all of the social media platforms, and don't buy the car. Don't buy the car. Talk to you soon.